Well, thank you very much, Baroness Verma, for chairing the first part of this conference and for that kind introduction. It's an honour to be part of this important virtual event hosted by the British Committee for Iran Freedom. It's great to be able to celebrate International Women's Day with you. It's an opportunity for me, as so many others have done, to pay tribute to the brave women in Iran and around the world who struggle for equality and challenge misogyny. It's a privilege to share a virtual stage with NCRI President-elect Mariam Rajavi. We all know Mrs. Rajavi shoulders the monumental responsibility of leading the campaign for democratic change and reform in Iran. As we all know, and as many have said at this event, the regime in Tehran has reduced women to second-class citizens. They're prevented from making their own choices on their clothing, their work, their travel, and on so many other aspects of their lives, and they're left vulnerable to the horrors of domestic violence and forced marriage. All of this in addition to brutal curbs on freedom of expression, political dissent and human rights, which the regime imposes on all its citizens, men and women. By contrast, Mrs. Rajavi leads a movement that embraces women's leadership and has a strong focus on empowering women. I very much hope that one day we see a realization of Mrs. Rajavi's ambition that a future generation of girls in Iran will be able not only to pursue happiness and equal opportunities, but also to shape their country's future and see it take its rightful place amongst the free nations of the world. This year's theme for International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. On the official website for the day, it explains from challenge comes change, so let's all choose to challenge. Not an easy thing to say. From the first day, the mullahs usurped power in Iran by hijacking the revolution 42 years ago. Many women have chosen to challenge the theocratic regime to try to bring about change. Today, the regime faces growing protests and popular dissent, despite all its brutal crackdowns, executions and mass arrests. And the question for the UK government and the international community is on which side of history do they want to be? I would strongly encourage the UK government to engage with the NCRI and Mrs. Rajavi and her 10-point plan for democracy, human rights and equality. Our Foreign Secretary should also work with the EU and international partners to put pressure on the regime to release political prisoners and the unjustly imprisoned dual nationals, especially the women who languish in prison unfairly. And as others have said, any future relationships or agreements with Iran need to be continued contingent on real and verifiable improvements in human rights and women's rights. And I'd also like to see the UK's new Magnitsky sanctions system applied to regime officials and leaders who are responsible for serious human rights violations. Clearly, the mullahs fear the democratic aspirations of Iranian opposition groupings, and they fear the empowerment of Iranian women who want a democratic future for their country. I believe that's why they sent their diplomat to bomb the NCRI gathering in Paris in 2018. I was one of the people at that conference to show solidarity with people in Iran protesting against the regime. I and many elected representatives from around the world attended to support Mrs. Rajavi's platform for a free Iran where human rights and gender equality are respected. And I'm pleased to be here once again to show my support for the brave women who are campaigning to change Iran for the better and to put their country on the path to freedom. Thank you.